I want to tell you about a question that religious people absolutely hate. Not because it's complicated, not because it requires deep theological knowledge, but because it's devastatingly simple, and they know they can't answer it. The question is this: do you believe what you believe because it's true, or because you were told to believe it? Now, before anyone gets defensive, let me be very clear about what I'm asking. I'm not asking whether you think your beliefs are true. Of course you do. Everyone thinks their beliefs are true. That's what makes them beliefs. I'm asking something more fundamental. What's the actual reason you hold these particular beliefs? And here's why this question is so dangerous, because the answer for the overwhelming majority of believers has nothing to do with evidence, reason, or independent investigation. It has everything to do with geography and the accident of birth. Let me put it to you plainly. If you're a Christian in Alabama, ask yourself, would you be a Christian if you'd been born in Saudi Arabia? Of course not. You'd be a Muslim. If you'd been born in Mumbai, you'd be a Hindu. If you'd been born in Tel Aviv, you'd be Jewish. If you'd been born in rural China, you might be a Buddhist, or more likely, you'd have no religion at all. This is not a controversial observation. This is a statistical certainty. The religion you profess has far more to do with the latitude and longitude of your birthplace than it does with the careful examination of competing truth claims. You're a Christian because your parents were Christians. You're a Muslim because your parents were Muslims. You're a Hindu because you were born into a Hindu family. In other words, you believe what you believe because you were told to believe it, because it was drilled into you as a child, because everyone around you believed it, because doubting it was unthinkable, because questioning it was portrayed as dangerous or sinful or disrespectful to your family. This is not a path to truth. This is indoctrination. Now, at this point, the believer usually offers one of several defenses. Let me address them one by one. The first defense is, well, I've examined my faith, I've thought about it, I've read the Bible, or the Quran, or the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm convinced. Fine. Interesting claim. But let me ask, have you examined the other faiths with the same rigor? Have you read the Quran if you're a Christian? Have you studied the Vedas if you're a Muslim? Have you actually looked at what Buddhists or Sikhs or Jains or Zoroastrians believe? No? Then how would you know that yours is the correct one? Well, comes the response, I don't need to study every false religion. I know mine is true. But that's exactly my point. You've already decided yours is true before examining the alternatives. You're not conducting an honest investigation. You're rationalizing a conclusion you already hold. A Hindu in Calcutta has read the Bhagavad Gita and is utterly convinced. A Muslim in Tehran has studied the Quran and is absolutely certain. A Mormon in Salt Lake City has prayed about the Book of Mormon and received a burning in his bosom confirming its truth. They can't all be right, but they can all be using the same terrible methodology, starting with the conclusion and working backwards. Now, here's where it gets really uncomfortable for the believer. Because once you realize that you believe what you believe primarily because of where and when you were born, you have to confront a rather disturbing implication. If you'd been born in medieval Europe, you'd have believed the earth was flat and that the sun revolved around it. You'd have believed in the divine right of kings. You'd have believed that disease was caused by demons or divine punishment. You'd have believed that slavery was perfectly acceptable, that the Bible endorsed it, in fact, and you'd have been wrong about all of it. But you wouldn't have known you were wrong, because everyone around you believed the same things, because the authorities, religious authorities, told you these things were true, because doubting them was dangerous. So here's my question. What makes you think you're any different now? What makes you think that the religious beliefs you were handed as a child are any more likely to be true than the religious beliefs that were handed to your ancestors' beliefs we now know were false? The difference is this: I'm not claiming to have access to cosmic truth revealed by the creator of the universe. I'm not claiming that my position is the one true way and everyone else is damned. I'm simply saying, show me the evidence, and I'll follow it wherever it leads. If a Muslim has evidence that Islam is true, I want to see it. If a Christian has evidence that Christianity is true, I want to examine it. If a Hindu can demonstrate that Brahman is the ultimate reality, I'm listening. But I was raised to believe it is not evidence. Everyone in my community believes it is not evidence. I had a feeling is not evidence. The book says it's true is not evidence, especially when every religion has a book that makes the same claim. And this brings me to what makes this question so so dangerous. Because once you honestly confront it, once you really think about it, the whole edifice starts to crumble. If your religious beliefs are primarily a function of geography and childhood indoctrination, then what claim do they have to truth? What makes them different from any other cultural programming? You speak English because you were born in an English-speaking country. You like certain foods because you were raised eating them. You have certain political instincts because of your upbringing. And you hold certain religious beliefs for exactly the same reason. None of this makes those beliefs true. Now, I can already hear the objection, but surely you're not saying all religions are equally false. Actually, I'm saying something more specific. I'm saying that the method by which people arrive at their religious beliefs, inheritance, geography, childhood indoctrination, is completely unreliable as a guide to truth. If a method produces contradictory results, if it makes people in Alabama certain that Jesus is Lord and people in Tehran certain that Muhammad is the final prophet, then it's not a method for discovering truth. It's a method for perpetuating whatever you were taught. A reliable method for discovering truth should converge on the same answers regardless of where you start. Science does this. If you're doing physics in Tokyo or Paris or Sao Paulo, you get the same results. The speed of light doesn't change based on your location or upbringing. But religion is entirely dependent on accidents of birth, which tells you everything you need to know about its relationship to truth. So, let me ask you again, directly. Do you believe what you believe because it's true, or because you were told to believe it? And please, be honest with yourself. Don't tell me you've carefully examined all the alternatives. Don't tell me you've conducted a rigorous investigation of competing truth claims, because if you'd really applied skepticism and evidence-based reasoning, you almost certainly wouldn't be religious at all. The evidence for any particular religious claim is embarrassingly thin. The evidence that religious belief is primarily a product of geography and childhood indoctrination is overwhelming. And once you see this, once you really see it, you can't unsee it. You start to notice how every religious person is absolutely convinced that their particular tradition is the correct one, despite having no better evidence than anyone else. You notice how they all use the same circular reasoning. I know my book is true because my book says it's true. You notice how they all report the same subjective experiences and interpret them through completely incompatible frameworks. And you realize they're all wrong for the same reason. They all believe what they were told to believe. They all mistake cultural inheritance for cosmic truth. This is why this question is so dangerous, because it forces you to confront the uncomfortable reality that your deeply held beliefs, the beliefs you've built your life around, the beliefs you've passed on to your children might have nothing to do with truth and everything to do with the accident of where you were born. And that's a terrifying thought. It means the foundation you've built your life on might be no more solid than the foundation of any other religion. It means you might be just as mistaken as the Hindu you think is worshipping false gods, or the Muslim you think has been deceived by a false prophet. It means you might need to start over, to actually investigate, to follow the evidence, rather than the traditions you inherited. And most people can't do that. Most people would rather believe a comforting lie than confront an uncomfortable truth, which means it's not a reliable method, which means you don't actually know what you think you know, which means you're believing what you believe because you were told to believe it, not because it's true. And once you admit that, we can finally have an honest conversation about what's actually real. But until then, you're just another person defending the religion you happen to be born into, convinced that your accident of birth somehow revealed cosmic truth, while everyone else's accident of birth led them into error. And I'm sorry, but that's not good enough. Not for me. And it shouldn't be good enough for you either. Thank you.